Hello everyone, welcome to week 4. Before we begin our lecture, I would like to explain some very important information. Recently, the university has announced that all midterm exams are canceled. What does that mean? It means that there will be no midterm exam, online or offline. Instead, we will continue with normal lectures online. Also, the midterm exam points are going to be reorganized so that you don't lose any points in your final grade. Let's look at how these points will be reorganized. In your original syllabus, we planned to have a score like this. Your final exam was worth 30%, midterm exam 20%, and assignments 20%. Because the midterm has been canceled, we are going to split the midterm points. And then we are going to share them with the final exam and assignments. So your new grade breakdown will look like this. Your assignments will be worth 30%, and your final exam will be worth 40%. Now let's look at your assignments a little more closely. In our old syllabus, each assignment was worth 10%. Now, the value of each assignment has increased. Your video presentation and your PowerPoint presentation are both worth 15%. In total, this becomes 30%. Our group project, the PowerPoint presentation, might change to a solo project. I am waiting to see how long we will continue the online classes. So please be ready for an update that will happen closer to the end of the semester. Okay, now that we have all of our important information finished, let's move on to our textbook lecture today. Today we will begin Unit 2A, Energy and Our Planet. In this unit, we'll talk about the ways that we use energy in our everyday lives and how that can affect the health of our planet. Before we begin the new content, let's do a review of last week's grammar point. Tag questions. I'm sure you remember what tag questions are, don't you? Tag questions change a statement into a question by adding a little question at the end. We have 4 examples of tag questions today. Aren't you? Doesn't she? Are you? And is she? I would like you to take out your notebook and try to complete these 4 tag questions just to practice. You can write any kind of sentence you want, but remember, we need to match a positive and a negative statement, right? So positive statement, negative tag question. And again. So, today we will begin Unit 2A, Energy and Our Planet. In this unit, we are going to discuss the ways that we use energy in our everyday lives and how that can affect the health of our planet. Before we begin the new content, let's review last week's grammar point. Tag questions. You remember what tag questions are, don't you? Tag questions change a statement into a question. We have 4 examples of tag questions here. Aren't you? Doesn't she? Are you? And is she? I would like you to please take out your notebook and try to complete these 4 tag questions. You can write any kind of sentence you want, but don't forget, if you have a negative tag question, you need a positive statement. Doesn't she? This is a negative tag question, so we need a positive statement. If we have a positive tag question, we need a negative statement. Remember our battery. You can flip the battery both ways. Okay, so please take out your notebook and finish this grammar review. Great! Hopefully you thought of some creative statements to go with your tag questions. Now let's look at our carbon footprint. What is a carbon footprint? A carbon footprint is a way of measuring how many resources we need to sustain our lifestyle. For example, in America, people purchase a lot of new products and they live a very high level of consumption. If everyone in the world bought as much and ate as much and lived in as big of houses as an American, we would need 5 whole planets to sustain their demand. We can see that South Korea is also very high. Because of all of our modern conveniences, like smartphones, high-speed internet, and of course, fast fashion, you can see that we would need 3.5 planets to sustain our lifestyle. Obviously, first world countries consume a lot more than third world countries. Now that third world countries are starting to develop more and more quickly, how can we manage our energy consumption and our carbon footprint so that we can all share one planet together? In the previous unit, we talked about our diet and how our lifestyle choices can affect our health. In this unit, we are talking about how our lifestyle choices can affect our environment. But there is a very strong connection between our diet and the health of our environment. I would love for you to please try this food footprint quiz. I have provided the link on YSEC. This is a very simple and fun quiz and will only take you about 3 minutes to do. It is a quiz created by the New York Times, and this quiz hopes to determine how much your food choices create an impact on the environment. When you open the website, you will see a very colorful and fun quiz. All you need to do is pick a meal for each part of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Choose a meal that is the most similar to the food you really eat. Then, at the end of the quiz, it will give you a rating from low to high, and this rating will tell you your impact on the environment. In this sample result, I got a medium high score. That's because I chose steak, and beef causes a lot of greenhouse gas pollution. So please take a moment to open the link on YSEC and complete this quiz. So what was your quiz result? Hopefully you realized that your diet choices might not be as good for the environment as you thought before. Now let's think about some other things that we can do to improve our relationship with the environment. How can we be more green? And how can we save energy and pollution and also contribute to the recovery of the environment? A lot of people have green habits. Which ones do you have, and what are they? I'd like you to take out your notebook and practice writing an ADOQ answer to this question. If you're not sure of what to write about, you can take a look at these examples. For example, maybe you use a reusable shopping bag or a reusable water bottle. Or maybe you always turn off the lights when you leave the room. These are all very good green habits to have. If you think of any other ideas, you can also write them in your ADOQ answer. All right, take a moment with your notebook to write your response to this question. Today we have 10 new vocabulary words. Please listen and repeat. Demand, energy, carbon, reduce, atmosphere, increases, significantly, impact, conserve, efficient. Before we begin our vocabulary exercises, I would like to show you some image associations. Please look at the word and then look at the picture. Can you understand the meaning of the vocabulary word just by looking at the picture? Let's take a look. Number 1, energy. Number 2, carbon. Number 3, increase. Number 4, reduce. Number 5, demand. Number 6, impact. Number 7, atmosphere. Number 8, significantly. Number 9, conserve. Number 10, efficient. Okay, hopefully these images gave you an idea of what these words can mean. Please open your textbook and take a look at our meaning from context. You can read some example sentences that use these words. After you finish reading, please look at our fill-in-the-blank exercise, B, and match the word to their definition. If you don't have your textbook, you can pause the PowerPoint. When you come back, we'll check your answers. Welcome back. Let's check your answers. Please take a look at the screen. You can pause the video to check your answers. Now let's move on. In your textbook, you see another short text. Now we must fill in the gap. This text includes a map, but unfortunately it didn't fit into the screen. If you don't have a textbook, you can take a look. Please take your time and complete the fill-in-the-blank activity. When you come back, we'll check your answers. Let's check your answers now. Please have a look. Number 6. Be careful, we need to change the word to match the subject. Increases. Now let's talk about energy sources. Do you use a lot of energy at home? How do you use energy? In your notebook, please write 2 sentences to answer these questions and use 3 vocabulary words. Try to practice using different vocabulary words so you can understand how they are used in a sentence. Great job! If you ever have any sentences that you're not sure of, you can always email me and ask me to check them. I'm always happy to help my students. Now let's get ready for the listening part of today's lecture. In your textbook, you see 3 families: the Panchal family, the Chuma family, and the Nelson family. We're going to hear about their lifestyle habits and the amount of energy that they consume. When you finish, please number the families. Which family did we talk about first? And then write the country of each family. All right, now let's listen to our textbook audio.
A. Listening for main ideas. Page 27. Well, it's just about 7 o'clock, so why don't we get started? So, hello, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm Carl Jones, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about energy use around the world. Instead of talking in general terms, I decided to focus on 3 families from 3 different countries and discuss how each family uses energy in their daily lives. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. First, let's look at the Chuma family in a village in Botswana. Mr. Chuma is a tour guide, and the family also raises cows. In this slide, you can see Mrs. Chuma doing some of her housework outside the family's small house. She washes her clothes by hand, and then she hangs them in the sun to dry. She isn't using any fossil fuels to wash and dry, which means she isn't sending any greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In the next slide, you can see 3 of the Chuma's children and their neighbors' children going to school. The children walk there, and in the rainy season, they have to use this boat to cross the river. Again, you can see they aren't using much energy, so they aren't producing much carbon. Overall, the Chuma's demand for fossil fuels is quite low. They use fossil fuels for a few important things, such as electric lights and a radio, so, as a family, they have a fairly small impact on the environment. But global warming is having a significant impact on the people of Botswana, and the Chuma family is one example of this. Sometimes they don't have water, and there isn't enough grass for their farm animals because of the dry climate. Now, let's look at the next family, the Nelsons. The Nelsons live in Las Vegas, in the United States. Here, in this slide, you can see Brandy Nelson with her laundry. She's listening to the news on a big TV while she folds laundry in their living room. She washed and dried these clothes in a machine, and there are many other things in their house that use electricity. In the next slide, you can see the Nelson children coming home from school. They attend a private school. The Nelsons drive them to school because there isn't a bus. Brandy and her husband are entertainers, and they both drive to their jobs because it's faster than public transportation. Their jobs are far from their home, so they use about a gallon of gasoline every day. The Nelsons want to conserve energy and have done several things to help reduce the amount of energy they use. For example, this year they bought more efficient appliances. They also want to put in a solar energy system in their house, but it's very expensive. Their lifestyle puts a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, but they say it's difficult to change their habits. Finally, we have the Panchal family. This is Neetu Panchal, who lives in Jaipur, India. There are 11 people in her family, all living in one house. They have a washing machine, but she hangs her clothes on the top of her house to dry. The Panchals are saving money to build another room in their house for Neetu's cousin and his wife. Neetu's sister, Lalita, goes to work by bus. Here she is in this next slide here. Lalita works in a hotel far from their home. It takes her 40 minutes to get there. She hopes that the family will soon buy a car so she can spend less time getting to work and more time at home with her family. India has a very big middle class, more than 300 million people. Changes in the lifestyles of India's middle class will have a big impact on the world's greenhouse gases. For instance, by 2050, there will be about 600 million cars in India, more than any other country in the world. And as the demand for cars increases, so will the demand for oil and gas.
Let's check your answers. The Panchal family is from India, and we talked about this family last. The Chuma family is from Botswana, and we talked about this family second. Finally, the Nelson family is from America or the USA, and we talked about this family second. Now let's listen to this audio one more time, but this time we're going to listen for detail. You can see that in each box we have a fill in the blank. Please listen and write your answers in your notebook. When you finish, we'll check your answers.
A. Listening for main ideas. Page 27. Well, it's just about 7 o'clock, so why don't we get started? So, hello, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm Carl Jones, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about energy use around the world. Instead of talking in general terms, I decided to focus on 3 families from 3 different countries and discuss how each family uses energy in their daily lives. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. First, let's look at the Chuma family in a village in Botswana. Mr. Chuma is a tour guide, and the family also raises cows. In this slide, you can see Mrs. Chuma doing some of her housework outside the family's small house. She washes her clothes by hand, and then she hangs them in the sun to dry. She isn't using any fossil fuels to wash and dry, which means she isn't sending any greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In the next slide, you can see 3 of the Chuma's children and their neighbors' children going to school. The children walk there, and in the rainy season, they have to use this boat to cross the river. Again, you can see they aren't using much energy, so they aren't producing much carbon. Overall, the Chuma's demand for fossil fuels is quite low. They use fossil fuels for a few important things, such as electric lights and a radio, so, as a family, they have a fairly small impact on the environment. But global warming is having a significant impact on the people of Botswana, and the Chuma family is one example of this. Sometimes they don't have water, and there isn't enough grass for their farm animals because of the dry climate. Now, let's look at the next family, the Nelsons. The Nelsons live in Las Vegas, in the United States. Here, in this slide, you can see Brandy Nelson with her laundry. She's listening to the news on a big TV while she folds laundry in their living room. She washed and dried these clothes in a machine, and there are many other things in their house that use electricity. In the next slide, you can see the Nelson children coming home from school. They attend a private school. The Nelsons drive them to school because there isn't a bus. Brandy and her husband are entertainers, and they both drive to their jobs because it's faster than public transportation. Their jobs are far from their home, so they use about a gallon of gasoline every day. The Nelsons want to conserve energy and have done several things to help reduce the amount of energy they use. For example, this year they bought more efficient appliances. They also want to put in a solar energy system in their house, but it's very expensive. Their lifestyle puts a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, but they say it's difficult to change their habits. Finally, we have the Panchal family. This is Neetu Panchal, who lives in Jaipur, India. There are 11 people in her family, all living in one house. They have a washing machine, but she hangs her clothes on the top of her house to dry. The Panchals are saving money to build another room in their house for Neetu's cousin and his wife. Neetu's sister, Lalita, goes to work by bus. Here she is in this next slide here. Lalita works in a hotel far from their home. It takes her 40 minutes to get there. She hopes that the family will soon buy a car so she can spend less time getting to work and more time at home with her family. India has a very big middle class, more than 300 million people. Changes in the lifestyles of India's middle class will have a big impact on the world's greenhouse gases. For instance, by 2050, there will be about 600 million cars in India, more than any other country in the world. And as the demand for cars increases, so will the demand for oil and gas.
Great, let's check your answers. The Chuma family wash their clothes by hand, so they don't use a machine. The children walk to school, or during the rainy season, they use a boat. They use some fossil fuels for lights and radio. They have a fairly small impact on the environment, and sometimes they don't have water because of the dry climate. The Nelson family wash and dry their clothes in a machine. Parents drive the children to school. They use about a gallon of gasoline every day. A gallon is almost 4 liters. To save energy, they bought more efficient appliances. And they put a lot of carbon in the atmosphere. The Panchal family have a washing machine for clothes, but they don't have one to dry. They want to build another room in their house. Lalita goes to work by bus, but she hopes that the family will soon buy a car. More than 300 million middle-class people are in India. Which family do you think is the most similar to your life? I definitely think that I live a life very similar to the Nelson family. I also use a machine to wash my clothes, and I use a lot of appliances in my life. Which family do you think uses the least amount of energy? Could you live like them? Why or why not? What are some things that you wouldn't be able to give up? I'd like you to take some time to write your answer in your notebook. Now that you've had some time to reflect on your lifestyle, let's look at this picture. In this photo, you can see the difference between driving a car, riding a bike, and riding on a bus. There are the same number of people in each photo, but as we can see, driving a car is really not efficient. It takes a lot more room, and it releases a lot more carbon into the air. Which mode of transport do you use the most? I often take the bus or a taxi, but really, maybe I should get a bicycle, then I can get some exercise at the same time. Now let's put the listening away and look at our grammar point. Before I explain the grammar point, let's take a look at 2 examples and see if we can notice the difference between them. Number 1, he speaks English. Number 2, he is speaking English. If you look at the orange sentence, you'll notice there are 2 main differences. First, there's a be verb, he is. And then we add ing, speaking. So, what are these 2 verb tenses? They are the simple present and the present continuous. But when do we use these 2 verb tenses? First, let's look at the simple present. The simple present tense is used to talk about routines, habits, opinions, and facts. These are things that are true over a long period of time. So, take a look at this timeline. We are in the present. When you have an opinion, it doesn't change over time. A fact does not change over time. And a routine or a habit is repeated many times throughout time. So, let's look at an example. I walk to school every day. It's true for a long time, so we use the simple present. She hates cold pizza. This is her opinion. It rains during August. This is a kind of routine that happens every August. My family lives in Busan. This is a fact. Now, how about the present continuous? We use present continuous to talk about actions happening right now, or actions happening around now. So let's look at our timeline. The action is not finished, but it's not so long. It's just now. What is happening now? We are in the middle of the action. Andrea is teaching now. It is raining in Japan. I am exercising more. These days, I am dieting. So these actions are happening now and they are not finished yet. Present continuous. Let's do a little practice. I in the morning before class. Should we use the simple present or the present continuous? Take a moment to try your answer. The answer is simple present. Why do we use the simple present? In this sentence, she is talking about her daily routine in the morning before class. So, we should use a simple present. I jog in the morning before class. Let's look at one more example. Since the coronavirus outbreak, local governments people to stay at home. Is this simple present or present continuous? The answer is present continuous. This is an action that is happening now and it's not finished. Since the coronavirus outbreak, local governments are asking people to stay at home. Now let's look at another example. Lucy and Carol to Busan to visit their grandmother this weekend. Do you think we should use the simple present or the present continuous? The answer is the present continuous. Lucy and Carol are going to Busan to visit their grandmother this weekend. But this action is not happening now. That's because sometimes we can use the present continuous to talk about future plans. However, in this unit, we're going to focus on using the present continuous for actions happening in the present. I just thought I should let you know about this other way to use the present continuous. Now, I'd like to show you a clip from the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. You're going to hear Captain Jack Sparrow and Captain Barbossa using both the simple present and the present continuous. If you go to YSEC, you can download a very simple script that I've typed out. Please look at the script and listen to the dialogue. As you listen to the dialogue, circle the present continuous and present simple verbs. Then, please write a note next to each verb. How are they using each verb tense? For reference, you can look at our PowerPoint. Let's go back to the beginning. So here, we can see the different functions of each verb tense. So for simple present, we can use it to talk about a routine, habit, opinion, or fact. And present continuous can be used for actions happening now or actions happening around now. So let's take a look at this video clip and at the same time, look at the handout, circle the verbs, and take a note about their function. Now let's watch this video clip.
Jack. Which way you going, Jack?
Trim that sail! Set windward, brace and sheet!
Set windward, brace and sheet!
Hold the pennant line!
Hold the pennant line! What are you doing?
What are you doing?
No, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
No, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Captain gives orders on the ship.
The captain of the ship is giving orders.
My ship makes me captain.
They be my charts.
That makes you chartman.
Stow it! Not both of you! That's an order! Understand?
Sorry.
I just thought with the captain issuing out, I'd throw in my name for consideration. Sorry. I'll vote for you.
Let's check your answers now. Hopefully you took the time to read the script and highlight all of the present continuous verbs. We're going to take a look at the main exchange that happens in this clip. As you can see, there are a lot of examples of the present continuous verb, and the comedy in this scene comes from the repetition of the same verb. And in the beginning, they start saying, "What are you doing?" So we can see here a lot of the present continuous verb. This question is used to talk about what is happening right now. However, you might have noticed a change in their intonation during this dialogue. For example, Captain Jack Sparrow says, "What are you doing?" By putting the emphasis on you, he is making the focus on interrogating Captain Barbossa. He is flipping the question and he is getting aggressive with him. Captain Barbossa, on the other hand, says, "What are you doing?" This is a joke based on the concept that pirates say "arr." So Barbossa is acting like a pirate. "What are you doing?" Then Captain Jack Sparrow responds by saying, "Captain gives order on the ship." He is stating a fact about the rules of a pirate ship. And by using this fact, he's trying to argue that he is the captain and should be issuing the orders. Captain Barbossa responds by using present continuous, is giving orders. This is an action happening now, but also he is stating his opinion. And his opinion is that he is the captain. He is giving the orders now. In his mind, him being the captain is a fact. So we have a combination of functions in this example of the present continuous tense. Next, Captain Jack Sparrow answers, "My ship makes me captain." This is a simple present statement. To Captain Jack Sparrow, this is a fact, but it can be argued that maybe it's not true. So, in a way, this is his opinion of what he thinks is a fact. Next, Captain Barbossa says, "They be my charts." Be is a simple present verb, but it's used a little incorrectly. In correct English, he should say, "They are my charts." But in this line, he is using pirate talk again. "They be my charts." "This be my ship." This is the way that pirates talk. So he's using a simple present verb, but incorrectly. And in this sentence, he is stating a fact. These charts are his. Therefore, he is the captain. Then Captain Jack Sparrow responds with simple present, and this is his opinion. He has charts, and that doesn't make him a captain. That is Jack Sparrow's opinion. That makes you chartman. And finally, our sailor who tries to interrupt this situation and become the captain tells them, "That's an order, understand?" Usually we use this sentence, "That's an order," to communicate a fact. However, in this situation, he's not really the captain, so he is trying to tell them a fact, but they don't agree with what he says. Okay, hopefully you found that clip very entertaining and it showed a good range of the use of the same verb over and over again. But as you can see, we can use it to express our opinion, a fact, and also we can change our intonation to change the emphasis of the verb, even if we use the same verb over and over again. Now let's do one final practice. This is not in your textbook, so please take out your notebook. You are going to read a postcard from a friend who visited my hometown, Montreal, Canada. But some of the words disappeared. You need to fill in the blank. Please take a moment to fill in the blank, and when you come back, we'll check your answers. Great, let's check your answers now. Bonjour. It's beautiful here. It feels like Europe. I'm writing this postcard in a cafe. Most cafes have beautiful terraces, just like in Paris. You should visit here when you can. The food tastes delicious. Diana is taking me to the Mount Royal Park now. She said that it's perfect for picnics. Miss you, Lana. All right, hopefully you answered all of these correctly. If you didn't, don't worry. We have lots of practice time before our exam, especially now that the midterm exam has been canceled. Now, let's talk about your participation forum. This week, I decided to make it a little easier for you. Instead of writing a forum post on YSEC, you will answer some interview questions on Class Marker. You will answer these by writing full sentences using simple present and present continuous. If you go to Class Marker, you can see our participation activity below. Pathways 2A, Week 4, Unit 2A. Simple present and continuous participation activity. About the attendance quiz, I've decided to remove the 20-minute time limit. Now, you have an unlimited amount of time to complete the quiz until the end of class. I've also made the quiz a little shorter, 5 vocabulary questions and 5 grammar questions. In total, there are 10 questions. Please don't forget that we need to finish all of our participation and attendance assignments before the end of class. So, now that we have reached the end of our lecture, please go to Class Marker and complete both assignments before the end of class. You can take your time doing both of these assignments. There is no more time limit. Thank you so much for emailing me and telling me your feedback. It's very important for me to hear comments from students so that I can adjust my materials to help you. I always look forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you so much, and that's the end of our lecture this week. I hope you enjoy a very good week. Stay safe and stay healthy.